I'm going to do the afternoon update on the war. Before I start, if you want to get very much updated information, like at least probably 2-3 times an hour during most of the day and evening and into the night, you should join my Telegram group, which is free. And you need the app Telegram Messenger for most operating systems, I think. And it's free too. Telegram Messenger. Then send me an email. My email is israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. Israel spelled AE. Israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. And the email address is also in the description box under the video at the very lowest line down. And you'll see lots of pictures and videos and important updates. And on the site, you'll learn how to, for free on Telegram, sign up for Israel's Red Alert system, and you get real-time reports of missile attacks into Israel from anybody, and it shows you where the strikes were. Okay, this is all free. Okay, so on to the big important information. I believe it was our defense minister earlier today said that it appears likely, well, his words were very guarded, but he said it appears there's going to be a coalition of the United States, the UK, France, and Germany joining together in this war. He says he's in contact with the Americans constantly. And it appears that it's likely that there'll be a joint effort strike against Hezbollah with America and Israel. And reading between the lines, it appears that the UK, France, and Germany will join in. Judging by the actions of Italy, their prime minister just went to a synagogue, and was heavily supporting Israel, and I mean heavily. They may join in too, okay? Europe has had enough of these immigrants coming in that are basically affiliated with these terrorist groups attempting to cause problems in Europe and take over Europe, and they're watching what happened, and they're not very interested in waiting to see it happen in your own country, I would say. This is me talking. But it appears to me that this is a reality. Now, the American Gerald Ford aircraft carrier group is probably about I know it's in missile strike range of Hezbollah, and it might be close enough for them to launch fighter jets to fight against Hezbollah as well. Now, they don't like to launch fighter jets, great distances over the ocean, but it might happen. Now, if they have an emergency over land, they can always ditch in the Mediterranean near Israel, and our Navy would be extremely efficient in rescuing them, or they could always emergency land in Israel. But the traversing from the land back to the ship over the ocean could be problematic for them. So I don't think they're too enthusiastic about doing something like that when they just have to wait several hours, and they'll be much closer. The aircraft carrier group, which consists of the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier, which is the largest and most modern that America has, it could maximum hold 90 planes, and my guess is it's probably around 70 to 80. Will arrive at Israel in probably tomorrow night, okay? But it might be sooner, I don't know. I was calculating at 25 miles an hour, which is typically their cruise speed, but they could go more. And they travel at knots. So they might be able to travel at 30 or 35 knots, which means they'll get here sometime Wednesday in the late afternoon or the evening. I'm not sure yet. We'll get some updates on that. It's not easy to find. The Americans don't like to just run around saying, this is where our flotilla is now, And why should they? They shouldn't, Now, we've been bombing Gaza all morning and afternoon. Right now, it's about 4:05 in the afternoon here in Israel. Now, the dogs are outside with me, and they bark because they are convinced that every person that walks by the fence is a member of Hamas. I'm kidding. Okay. Now, that's really big news, and in my mind, I'm most certain this is going to happen. Okay? And I think it's going to go above and beyond just giving us military aid and equipment. I think it's going to go deeper than that. I don't have any indications that British warships are moving here or anything like that. If they do it, they're not going to be, very public about it until it happens. France is totally peeved at Hamas. Macron the words he's using are very, very strong. And it's the same with the UK. The Prime Minister of the UK stepped forward publicly, it was this morning or this afternoon, and made it crystal clear that Hamas is not a government, it's a terrorist organization, and it's not a nation. And it's not. But it runs Gaza. So that statement's not entirely correct. De jure, in other words, legally, it's not. In fact, it de facto, it 100% runs the area of Gaza, which the UN considers to be a country of some sort, Palestinian state or something like that. So let's not go there because it really de facto is Gaza. Now, Hezbollah in Lebanon is, again, a not 100% de facto runner of Lebanon, but almost. They hold seats in the parliament, a substantial amount, and the Lebanese government is afraid of them. And the Lebanese government has, I think yesterday, one of the heads of it came out and said, we're not, pleased with Hamas and there's nothing we can do about it. We need help. Well, rest assured, help will come. America's going to not ignore that cry for help. Okay? Neither will Israel. Hezbollah still has basically done nothing, just skirmishes between border troops on both sides, and not much of anything. It's very slight mortar launches, and not much. Hamas has threatened to essentially massively missile and rocket attack. Now, when you read on my Telegram, it says they bomb. Hamas is going to bomb, Ashdod and Ashkelon and stuff like that, which they're threatening that 5 o'clock this afternoon they're going to attack heavily. And people have been evacuated out of there. Now, it's a little bit of a mystery why they could still launch barrages and missiles, but I have no doubt in my mind that the IDF is working round the clock to eliminate that, and the amount of missiles coming in have been reduced quite a bit. These Ashkelon and Ashdod are bordering the north part of Gaza, so it's a very quick, short flight for the missiles being launched from Gaza in the north, and a lot of these junky missiles, what are very dangerous though, the Katyusha type missiles are very limited in range and accuracy, but they can be used with portable launchers. They don't even need trucks, So they move them around, and that, I think, is the problem. They had a lot of these things with the missiles stashed in underground tunnels. And this is part of the problem. And it's a perplexing situation for the IDF to eliminate it without a ground invasion. We have shut off water, fuel, food, and electricity for Gaza. They have generators that could keep running for a little bit longer on, barrels of fuel, I guess you could say. And that's going to burn out pretty quick. Last night when we were bombing there, the place was dark. This is going to affect the ability for Hamas to recharge their portable communication devices, walkie-talkies, phones, etc. And that's going to severely hurt them. It may already have set in or soon will. I totally expect that Hamas and PIJ and these other terrorist groups have confiscated whatever bottled water and food they can out of the supermarkets, leaving the people to suffer, because that's how they operate. There's no reportage of that, but I expect it happened. It may not have, but I expect it did. We were telling Gazan citizens to leave Gaza, go to Egypt through the crossing, I think it was the Rafah crossing, that was still open. And then Egypt started bringing into Gaza water and food and humanitarian supplies, as they said, on trucks, and we stopped it. We warned Egypt not to do it, so now we have Israel threatening Egypt. Remember, Egypt in Bible prophecy, it will be a ruinous heap, and they will be greatly fearful of Egypt. Credit for that is going to go to the two witnesses. Read Zechariah 12. The two witnesses appear way the heck before the tribulation. Read Zechariah 12, verse 10. Read it carefully and see who burns up the enemies on the right hand and the left hand. And then read Revelation 11 and see who has fire coming out of their mouth, and make your own decision. It's in your Bible. I don't care what the preachers say. Read your Bible. Before they shut the crossing, Egypt told Gaza they were only going to take in 2,000 people a day. Now, Egypt does not want their brother Palestinians in their country because they're never going to go home. They don't want to go back to Gaza. Okay? They're never going to be able to get rid of them, and there might not be any Gaza to go back to by the end of the week. So, okay, got the idea? They talk a big talk, but when it comes to action, they don't care about their brothers, They're just leaving them to rot in Gaza. The UN is beginning war crime investigations into what Israel's doing in Gaza. Now, I have not heard of the UN starting any war crime investigation into Hamas for killing the elderly, men, women, and children, going into houses and shooting the family members in front of each other. I have not heard them come under any war crime investigation for targeting civilian areas. None of this. Okay? Their soldiers ran around in Israel shooting anybody they saw. Okay? We understand that they actually came in with probably at least 1,500 Hamas soldiers. Hamas had or has about 33,000, something like that, 34, 35, someplace in the 30,000 range of people in Palestine. Palestine Islamic Jihad, PIJ, has about, 5,000 or 6,000 something. They total at about 40,000. Not a really big force. Hezbollah has about 100,000. And they added in, I think they call themselves Al-Qasim, another group. I don't know. They're probably 5,000 or 10,000 or something like that. They're up in Lebanon. We're seeing groups affiliated with Hamas and Hezbollah in Syria getting close to the border of Israel. Bashar Assad has been warned by Israel and America and other countries, including the UAE, surprise, surprise, not to get involved. And he went and hid in his bunker, an underground bunker. Dollars to Donuts, Israel has the GPS coordinates of his bunker. But it might be 60 or 100 feet underground, so it's a little tricky to get to him. Now, that could mean a couple of things. It could mean, number one, he is going to help, and that's why he went to his bunker, because he figures they'll kill him if they can, the Israelis, the Americans, and other forces possibly. America is telling all of them to not open up another front against Israel. There's going to be consequences. That was specifically told to Hezbollah. They may be trying to open up another front from Syria. Iran tried running a military equipment and or personnel convoy into, I think it was about 36 hours ago or 48 hours, I don't know, over a day ago, into Syria. They go from Iran to Iraq to Syria, and unidentified aircraft bombed the convoy, destroying it. Now, that could be America or Israel, or both. So Syria doesn't have a lot to lose at this point, and they might try to make an end run here and open up another front. But I don't believe Israel is about to let anything like that happen. Now, Israel has prepared for 4 or 5 front wars for many decades. We know all about it. We know all the contingencies, the weaknesses, the strengths. We're ready for that. Hamas announcing the 5 p.m. bombing up there by Ashdod, Ashkelon is, I really forgot if it was Ashdod or Ashkelon. I think it was Ashdod. I don't remember. I can look it up. But anyway, it's in my Telegram. They're near each other, right at the north of Gaza. And it caused Israel to run an evacuation. They probably intend to go through with it. But we have seen them threaten big missile barrages in the last couple of days, and they never really happened. This afternoon, they did attack Tel Aviv. They called it a retaliatory attack. Now, this is a war crime. Tel Aviv is not a military base. They were attacking the city, the houses, the apartments, the office buildings. And the UN won't do anything about that. In their mind, that's not a war crime. Now, the UN is completely, yes, I would say hogtied. It's worthless. It can and will do nothing. Can and will do nothing. Why? If it moves against Israel with the Security Council to actually raise an army and take action against Israel, I got the sun in my eyes. What's going to happen is the UN, America's going to veto it at the UN. The UK will veto it. Other countries will veto it. It'll die. If China and Russia try to bring some sort of action where the Security Council sends an army to Israel, something, it's going to die in the UN. If America tries to bring war crimes up against them, Hamas, China and Russia will veto it. So the UN at this point, I mean, you can listen to what they say, and it's interesting, but it's a worthless entity. Okay, their one world order is completely divided at this point in time, and it's not going to unify anytime soon. It's not going anywhere. All right. We have not done a ground invasion yet into Gaza. We're trying to weaken them and soften them to cut down the issue of casualties. We actually care a lot about that. If you're interested, I know that 2 soldiers that attend Messianic congregations in Israel were killed fighting in uniform for Israel in the reserve so far. But people go to Messianic congregations that aren't real believers too, and I really never knew these people. I have no idea anything. They say they're believers, and that's what I picked up. I think it's 2. One a day ago, one a day and a half ago, and one recently. So it's not good. Okay. Hezbollah still has not launched their big rocket attack, and as the Israel fleet closes, it's worse and worse for them. I would say they've waited too long. Opposing the victory of Hamas in Gaza, Putin is saying the only solution is a two-state solution for the Palestinians. Well, we know how Putin thinks with two-state solutions. Have you ever heard of the Ukraine-Russia war? Okay. So Putin is looking like he's mentally ill at this point. I mean, how could you take this guy seriously? You know, he's screaming human rights and stuff like that. And this moron bombs hotels and apartment, missile attacks hotels, apartment buildings, civilian population centers, shopping centers, restaurants, etc. in Ukraine. So, I mean, listening to Putin now is like listening to Mickey Mouse comment on the war. It's just idiotic, you know. China's going to do nothing. The end game here appears to be, beyond the shadow of a doubt to me, that Hezbollah has to be neutralized. America does not have to help Israel with Gaza whatsoever, and they won't. There's no need. The heads of Hamas are in tunnels under the earth, deep tunnels, and that's why things are still operating, and that's why we need a ground invasion to get rid of the tunnels. What they'll do is they'll just find the tunnels and blow them up. If they want to come out and surrender, they can. They'll probably warn them, send a microphone or speakers or something in there and warn them, and they're not going to heed the warning. They're not going to take our soldiers and send them in there like tunnel rats in Vietnam. They're just going to blow the tunnels up. Now, there's some interest of getting military intel from the tunnels, but it's pointless because nothing's going to be left of Gaza. Nothing. So what do you need military intel for on something that is just historical? Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and their fellow fighting fringe organizations are in a speeding car going down memory lane, and they're just going to be a memory in a couple of days that will soon be forgotten. Hezbollah could possibly be waiting for Israel to do the invasion of Gaza, thinking that's going to make us weaker, and they may try to get in the fight with a large missile attack into Israel population centers, demanding us to leave Gaza or the attacks will continue. This is not a workable plan from a military strategic viewpoint because we have a literal army on their border. Now, the Israel Knesset, that's our Congress, one house Congress, has just authorized the call up of an additional 360,000 reservists. We have already in the last few days called up 300,000. They're still flying in to Israel from around the world. We're running military shuttle planes out of Europe to pick them up. So they can't get flights into Israel, or if you can get them, they're going to be like thousands of dollars because there's almost nobody flying into Israel. So we're picking them up in Europe, I think Cyprus, possibly many locations, and we're putting them in military transports, bringing them in. One of our former prime ministers, Naftali Bennett, who's a special forces soldier, has showed up for reserve duty, and he's in uniform fighting. Another member of parliament that just got called up in the reserves, and he's in uniform fighting. Now, what other country do you know? I mean, do the Congress people in America, the Senate and House of Representatives, do they go in the army and fight? Does a former president go into the army and fight? See, Israel is not a regular country. You must understand that. We're not like all the other countries. The capital of Israel is Yerushalayim. Yah is another word, one of God's names. Yehovah, Yah. Yerushalayim is the only city in the world named after God. Okay? So the Hezbollah, we don't know what they're going to do yet. If they start launching on civilian targets, The Israel army on the border, which is loaded with tanks, mobile artillery, armored personnel carriers, mortars, towed artillery, Apache helicopter gunships, and a plethora of F-16s and F-35s and drones flying over Lebanon all day, all night. My area in the north, there's aircraft perpetually in the sky over us. And if they kick the afterburners on, they'll be in Lebanon in max 30 seconds, maximum, to strike. Hezbollah has no air force. They have no ground-to-air defenses. They have no navy. They have a hand, some, not many, some busted-up Cold War-era tanks that are not very effective. They have a lot of pickup trucks where they've riveted gun mounts in the bed of the pickup, and they put 50 caliber machine guns on them. They call them a technical. And that is, what are they going to do with that against the Israeli army? It's a little stupid. Now, there seems to be an attack brewing against Iran. I am quite confident that the end game here is Iran is going to be attacked. Iran has caused a lot of problems. They've interrupted shipping in the Persian Gulf. They've pirated boats, taken merchant marine vessels, the crew prisoners, stolen the load, stole the boat, gave the boat back, all different renditions, okay? And America has 3 warships in the area now. I think 2 are destroyers, or 1 destroyer and 1 missile cruiser, and the other is one of these small aircraft carrier landing ships that could hold 1,500 expeditionary marines with tanks and various military equipment, armor, etc. And they can launch vertical takeoff planes and a bunch of helicopters. Not very many planes, maybe 12. 1,500 troops isn't going to do a lot, but they're there. America doesn't really want to put aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf because they could be big ones. They could be swarm attacked by Iran's 1,500 plus go-fast boats that shoot torpedoes and missiles. And these are 60, 70-foot boats that go probably 45 miles an hour, maybe 50. And if you send 50 or 60 or 80 of them at an aircraft carrier, they're probably going to cause a lot of damage, even possibly sink it eventually. And that would be to overwhelm the defenses of the aircraft carrier. And they would also, at the same time, put hundreds of drones up at them. So America's not interested in that. So the big ships are going to probably remain in the Mediterranean. Now, we also have 1 warship in the Red Sea, the Suez Canal over there, because there's a threat from Yemen stopping shipping over there. Yemen is another ally or puppet of Iran. So America's infuriated over that. Biden gave them $6 billion release of frozen sanctioned funds, and they were not supposed to use it for terrorism, and apparently they did. The real threat is if the war breaks out with NATO and Russia, Iran being a mutual defense treaty ally of Russia will probably interfere with the Persian Gulf shipping heavily, use Yemen to interfere with the ships going through there, and they would probably voraciously attack the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, maybe even Qatar and Bahrain, but those guys seem to be getting along with Iran. And that is a very dire threat because it could double and triple oil prices. And Russia, of course, has already curtailed a lot of their oil and gas sales to only people that they like. So Europe and North America could suffer from an incredibly bad economic impact. And this is a real grave concern of the Americans and the UK and the European Union and NATO, and big time. I mean, huge, as big as it gets. Them pulling Saudi Arabia and UAE into BRICS where they're selling oil not for U.S. dollars, for other currencies from other countries. This, of course, is a blow to America because it reduces the demand for the U.S. dollar and decreases the value of the dollar. So there's many motives beyond Hamas and Hezbollah for America to attack Iran. So America needs a location, and that location appears to be Israel. And Israel will probably join in, along with other countries. Now, I do not know if they'll do an occupation. If they want to do a regime change, they'll need to do an occupation. They might just do air attacks, and they might hit anywhere from 200 to 800 targets or 1,000 targets in Iran, which would be military and government. They would not be civilian population centers. America and NATO don't roll that way. Those are the psychopaths of the world that go around bombing apartment buildings and office buildings. And that would destabilize Iran tremendously. And then a civil war could and would ensue, I'm sure, with the support of many intelligence agencies. Taking, an army of 1.5 million soldiers and marching in there is probably something that's not going to happen. Their ground defenses are rather solid, so they'll just do an air attack. They're not going to do a ground invasion. I don't see the point of it. They're going to probably hit oil refineries, the terminals at the piers that offload the oil into tanker ships. They'll take out all their radar. They'll take out their communication systems. They'll take out their airstrips, their military bases, all sorts of things. And it'll put Iran back 10 or 20 years militaristically, and they'll lose their grip on the control of the country, and there'll probably be a civil war. These people think that they're, King Kong and they can't be attacked. Well, they're very, very wrong. They have no air defenses. It's a classical mistake. They have no serious navy to speak of. That's a second classical mistake. Combine the two together and you've got a disaster for Iran. An unavoidable disaster. Will Russia come to the aid of Iran? Well, I doubt it. But if they do, NATO would like it because it opens up another front for Russia in Iran, and that weakens them, and I don't think they will. The other great big problem is Iran is manufacturing drones, missiles, bullets, and war materials to supply to Russia to keep Russia in the war in Ukraine, and they're not stopping. Israel has attacked them twice and hit these missile storage facilities and factories, and they just rebuild rapidly, so that's not working. And this means that the NATO members have to keep supplying weapons to Ukraine at fantastic expense to keep Ukraine in the fight against Russia. Russia wants Ukraine for a buffer zone against Europe. And if they cut off the flow of weapons from Iran, it makes it faster and easier to see Russia throw the towel in and leave Ukraine, which they would all like. NATO would like to see that. But there's a strong possibility that NATO and Russia are headed to war. China is not going to do anything here. Forget it. It's too far away. They got their own problems with Taiwan and Japan and North and South Korea and Philippines and Guam. And forget it. They'll do nothing. They may try to fly some planes into Iran with equipment or something, but that's about it. If Russia has to break their mutual defense treaty with Iran, this will help NATO because it'll show other nations that Russia is an unreliable ally that cannot be counted on. So there's a lot of underlying causes here to attack Iran that have nothing to do with Hamas and Hezbollah. But the game plan of Iran is if you attack us, we're going to have our proxies annihilate Israel. We're the little Satan, America's the big Satan in their parlance. So America doesn't want to see the whole Middle East go up in smoke and go into complete instability, because then oil prices will go crazy, everything will go crazy. So they want to shut this down, and I think before they attack Iran, well, they may not attack Iran. I can't say 100% they will, but all the indications to me are they will. And many, many other people in Israel feel the same way. Before they attack Iran, they got to disable Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is not disabled. I would say they're between a rock and a hard place, and they don't know what the heck to do right now. They want the money from Iran, but they don't want to go down memory lane. You know, our defense minister told us he could put Lebanon in the dark ages in one afternoon. Now, they say they have 250,000 missiles and rockets. Last I heard, it was 150,000. How do we know they really have them? They said so. How do we know? Do they really have them on? Israel's not behaving like they really do. So the Israeli intelligence services may have good intel that the extent of their arsenal is nowhere near that size. And it's not that effective. Katyusha rockets go out maybe 12 miles. Okay? Now, if Hamas can hit Tel Aviv, so can they. So they have to have some more advanced junk. Okay? How much they have, I don't know. It is in the thousands for sure. Is it in the tens of thousands? Maybe. Their whole defense strategy is to be able to attack Israel population centers, hit civilians, that's a war crime, and repel Israel that way. Israel's not going to listen to that. If they turn their missile defenses on the Israeli army on their border, where they're sitting right now, all that's going to happen is Israel's going to invade. They're not going to turn back. They're not going to stay still. They're going to advance. And the game plan would be probably what happened in 2006. We built a buffer zone. In 2006, it was 25 miles. So we eradicate all of them in 25-mile area inside Lebanon with Israel. And that stops most of their rockets from doing anything. In this case, we may have to go 40 miles. And then we travel around Lebanon, eradicating the rest of their arsenals, which could take a few months. We're being told by our military that this campaign is probably going to last weeks, which makes me think for sure we're going to hit Hezbollah. We'll probably do a preemptive strike. Why should we sit and wait for them to wake up one day in the middle of the night and start launching when we could just pick the time of our choosing and go attack? Because they've threatened us over and over and over for years and years and years. And there are skirmishes on the border, which is enough of a provocation. They shot 15 missiles yesterday at Israel. They're shooting mortars. They're shooting at our soldiers. They've killed and wounded soldiers. You know, so we have a provocation. They know they'll be annihilated. If they really thought they could decimate Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Haifa before we take them over, they would probably have started the assault before Gaza completely falls. Gaza's basically nothing anymore, okay? It's rubble, okay? And I think our military is waiting for the effects of no electricity, no food, no fuel, no water to get them very, very destabilized, and that'll reduce the casualties. And then we go in. And when we go in, we'll open up the water for the civilians. The other problem with the crossing into Egypt is we probably detected many high-ranking Hamas soldiers going into Egypt to get away and try to run the campaign out of Egypt. So we did bomb the crossing. 2 crossing border patrol guys from Egypt got wounded by shrapnel. We warned them. They didn't listen. So now the tensions between Egypt and Israel are getting higher again. The threat from Syria is not very great. I don't think we're going to have to dedicate a lot of resources to that. If Iran tries to traverse through Iraq into Syria with 100,000 or 50,000 soldiers, it'll get, as soon as it lands and as soon as it walks into Syria, our aircraft will bomb them incessantly, and there won't be much of anything left of them. They might try it, but that doesn't mean they'll be successful. They tried once and it was not successful. So you can't fight a war against a modern country without an air force and without a navy. And these numbskulls don't understand that. So there you have it. I don't know when we're going to enter Gaza. The military itself in Israel may not know. They may be debating it. They definitely want to stop the flow of missiles, and that's going to require a ground invasion, but the flow of missiles is not that heavy. But they did do a substantial hit in Tel Aviv today, and they did do in the north by Ashdod and Ashkelon, they're doing a lot of hits, and in the south. Ben-Gvir, our security minister, purchased 10,000 assault weapons, I believe they are, from the private sector, and he's giving them to anybody in the West Bank that wants one. Now, see, Netanyahu hates guns. He has a lot of opposition. He's probably afraid of civil war, or I don't know what he's afraid of, but he's afraid of something. And he's taken a lot of the guns away from Israelis in his 20 years of horrible reign over Israel. He's the worst thing that ever happened to Israel. We're here today because he didn't stop Hamas from building up, nor did he stop Hezbollah. That's why we're here today. Okay? Don't forget that. And he was behind giving Gaza back to the Palestinians. It was 2008, I think. And America was pushing very heavy for that, too. So America sort of owes us for that one. That was a complete disaster. Giving the West Bank back, it's just another replication of Gaza. They'll have missiles there. They'll get weapons in through Syria. They'll have tanks. They'll have aircraft. They'll build airfield. I mean, it'll be a war zone. So that's not on the table. Nobody in Israel is that stupid, Jordan is playing ball with America, and they're not expressing any aggression against Israel at this time. But if you read the Bible, Jordan is Ammon, Edom, and Moab. They will shortly. Next few months, you'll see that. The radical terrorists may overthrow the king of Jordan and, try to run it that way or something. I don't know. Jordan's border is Israel. There's a border crossing the Jordan I could drive to in, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I mean, it's got a border. Iraq has no border with us, by the way. Syria does. We could stand in the Golan Heights and look at people in Syria. You could see their houses, their cars driving on the roads and stuff like that. It's easy. So they're threatening to make Damascus a rubbish pile, which is the scripture, Damascus shall be a ruinous heap. If Assad helps them. And the fact that Assad went into his bunker underground when he got threatened not to help, it doesn't mean that he's going to help. It means he just got scared and went into the bunker. But the evidence we're seeing looks like he's helping. He's allowing radical groups affiliated with Hezbollah and Hamas, and including Hezbollah in Syria, to accumulate by our border. And what they'll try to do is break the fence with trucks or something and come in on motorcycles, cars, whatever, and try to kill Israeli civilians, which is a war crime, When America invaded countries in World War II, they didn't go into like Italy or Germany and start shooting the people in the villages and the cities. That's what Hamas does. That's what Hezbollah does. It's a big difference. Okay? They're terrorists. They're not a legitimate army. Okay? Iran is both. Iran is terrorists and legitimate army. They're a combo. People that got expelled from Iran in the 1979 revolution are demonstrating in America against Iran. They'd probably like to go home. Their property got confiscated by the mullahs, and they didn't want to go back there because they weren't Muslim. I knew some of them. What else can I tell you? That's basically about it. I'll try to do an evening update later. Make sure you're subscribed and click the notification bell so when I come on with live streams, which during the war I'm in the habit of doing several times a day, you'll get a notice and come there. My Telegram channel, again, is the real place you want to be for the up-to-the-date news, okay, and, commentary that's not censorable. And you can send me an email to israelgiving7@gmail.com and ask me for the link to Telegram. You do need the app, Telegram Messenger. It's free. Telegram's free. Everything's free. There's no money involved. My name's Moshe. My wife is Rivka. Please pray for our peace, safety, protection for us and our animals and pets. And all praises to Jehovah and Yeshua HaMashiach. And that's what I got for now. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.